What do you get when you mix post-apocalyptic sci-fi hip-hop and samurai anime? Well, Afro Samurai, of course. This avant-garde manga series by Takashi Okazaki ran in Nou Nou Hau magazine for just 3 years, from 1998 to 2002, but is still considered to be one of the most unique battle manga ever created. And, well, as with every successful manga, the series was eventually adopted into anime as a miniseries and a television film. However, we were definitely caught off guard by the fact that Hollywood legend Samuel L. Jackson decided to feature in these properties as our protagonist Afro. And well, both the miniseries and the film turned out to be a heady mix of badass action, seamless aesthetics, slick one-liners, and a bangin' soundtrack by RZA. It's no wonder that the series earned 2 Emmy nominations for its achievements and has enjoyed a loyal cult of fans ever since. Thus, in this marvelous video, we've decided to dive deeper into this strange world by closely examining its titular protagonist. However, before we move forward, please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe buttons. With that out of the way, grab your katanas because here we go. Who is Afro Samurai? What is his origin? The best way to understand a hero is to understand his origin story. Thus, there's actually no better place to start this video than at Afro's tragic beginnings as a samurai warrior. Well, it turns out that swordsmanship is a talent that was passed on to Afro through his father, Rokutaro, who was the #1 samurai back in the day. But as you know, that's not really considered a peaceful job, and soon the man was challenged by #2, Justice. A fierce battle ensued, and unfortunately, Afro's father didn't make it out alive. Rokutaro was beheaded right in front of Afro, and the boy could do nothing but stand there and watch his father's murderer take the #1 headband. Quite understandably, this filled Afro with a seething hatred for the man, and Justice even told Afro to come back and fight him when he became strong enough to face a god. Justice's cold cackle would haunt Afro for the rest of his life. The boy would take his father's decapitated head and the discarded #2 headband to Mount Shumi and live on its edge until he was suddenly attacked by a band of bandits. Predictably, the bandits easily overpowered the boy and took the #2 headband for themselves, leaving Afro to die. Fortunately, Afro was rescued by a one-eyed samurai known as the Swordmaster and his student Gino. The samurai took him and provided Afro with a place at his dojo. Here, Afro recuperated and began training with the other orphans to learn the way of the sword. He soon grew proficient in the art and began hunting down various lowlifes in an attempt to retrieve the #2 headband. Afro is eventually met with the shocking truth that his own swordmaster is the true #2. After the confrontation, the master and student decide to meet under the Bodhi tree for a duel, but the bout is interrupted by students and a mob of thugs who are all seeking the #2 headband. A bloody battle ensues, and almost every student from the dojo is killed in the fighting. However, Afro and the Swordmaster do manage to have their battle by the end, but since this is just the origin, you know that Afro's gonna win. Afro begins to go through flashbacks from his father's death, and this angers him enough to kill the master. By the end, only 3 people survive: Afro, Gino, and the gorgeous Otsuru. And yeah, we definitely have a crush on her, leave us alone. At the end of this battle, Afro also encounters the mysterious Ninja, who joins him as his companion on his long and violent journey. What does Afro Samurai look like? Well, as the name suggests, Afro Samurai does in fact have an afro. In fact, his huge puffy hairdo is probably the first thing you'll spot when he starts approaching you. Other than that, Afro is actually of a fairly average build, with dark brown skin and similarly dark eyes. His attire is also fairly simple, consisting of a plain white Japanese kimono with blue flared pants underneath. The hems of his trousers are heavily frayed, and he also sports a traditional Japanese sandal known as geta. The most important bit, however, is his father's old katana, which still remains his weapon of choice. What drives Afro's quest for vengeance? Well, Afro is basically the kind of stoic badass that would give even the ancient Greeks a run for their money. He seems pretty serious and extremely aloof most of the time, and we rarely ever see him smile. However, under his stoic facade is a soul that hungers for vengeance, and this is what drives him to be so spectacularly violent. His father's cold-blooded murder, as well as the deaths of his friends and master, have left him permanently scarred. His experiences have turned him into a silent, cold-blooded killer with only one objective: moving forward. He has no qualms about eliminating anyone in his path, and in the manga, he even uses a crippled woman as a human shield at one point to improve his chances for survival. Although Afro is often seen as a monster by the public, the man still retains some compassion for his loved ones, like Gino and Otsuru, deep within his heart. He completely understands the meaning of wearing a headband of power and has committed his life to violence in order to exact his vengeance on justice. How did Afro face justice? Afro's path to justice was an incredibly long and violent one. Along the way, he faced numerous threats and challenges at the hands of warriors who wanted the number 2 headband for themselves. This included a wide variety of thugs, the Empty Seven, Afro droids, Machine Ninja, and even his childhood friend Gino, who had been transformed into the deadly cyborg Kuma. Afro would finally meet justice at the end of Season 1, where he challenges his arch-nemesis to a final duel. During the battle, Afro was able to cut off both of Justice's arms. However, the number 1 did have some tricks up his sleeve and proceeded to reveal a hidden third arm which he had used to kill Afro's father so many years ago. Despite this, Afro manages to cut off Justice's third arm and even a portion of his chin, nearly decapitating him. Justice manages to survive despite sustaining massive damage and attempts to impale Afro using a spike manifested from the floor. Afro uses his head and fake dying in order to lure Justice closer to him. He swings down the spike as Justice approaches and slashes him at the waist, knocking off his poncho. He then uses all of his training to deliver hundreds of slices in a single instant, reducing Justice to a pile of chopped chunks on the floor. With this, Afro claims the number 1 band, which proves that he is indeed the best swordsman in this twisted world. What happens in Afro Samurai Resurrection? In Afro Samurai Resurrection, we get to see a new side to our cold-blooded anti-hero. In this new installment to Afro Samurai, we see that Afro has been trying to leave his old life of violence and brutality behind him. However, Kuma and his sister Sio track him down. The duo manages to steal Afro's headband and even desecrate Afro's father's grave to steal Rokutaro's jawbone. As you can guess, these events leave Afro considerably pissed, and our samurai begins seeking the number 2 headband to kill Sio. A lead takes him to the city where the number 2 resides, where he encounters Shichigoro. Though Shichigoro is quite good, he's no match for the Afro Samurai, and our hero soon slays his enemy. Now, with the right to take on the number 1, he goes off to fight Sio. Along the way, he encounters multiple henchmen, but they turn out to be pretty insignificant hurdles. Afro soon finds Sio and Kuma, but the pair seem to be waiting for him with a secret weapon. It's a clone of Afro's father, Rokutaro, and as you can probably guess, Afro is left stunned by this. The reincarnated Rokutaro is an ungodly, barbaric force that attacks Afro with all its might. Even a single kick from this abomination is enough to crush his ribs, and things are made even worse by the fact that Afro finds himself unable to attack his own father. Though Afro is damaged considerably, Gino's life support makes contact with Afro's blood and restarts the anti-hero's heart. The fallen samurai rises and hears his father's voice telling him to kill the clone. With his doubts eliminated, Afro turns on the clone with all his strength and eventually manages to defeat it. After the battle, Afro begins heading towards Mount Shumi, but encounters Shichigoro's adoptive son, Kotaro, along the way. The young boy draws his sword at Afro, but the samurai just hands the boy the number 2 headband. This strangely heartwarming scene is pretty reminiscent of the moment Justice told Afro to come after him, and it has a ton of emotion behind it. How does Afro's story conclude? After learning so much about Afro Samurai, it's only natural to wonder how it all ended for him. Fortunately, the manga did provide us with a definitive answer to this question. After traveling through Mount Sumeru and defeating an endless horde of Afro droids, Afro becomes the sort of god that Justice had been once. He climbs up to the throne of God, and the moment he stabs Justice, his arch-nemesis simply turns to dust. This is when Ninja reveals to Afro that his apotheosis is complete. Many years later, an adult Kotaro arrives at the throne of God and challenges Afro to a duel. Afro reacts strangely to this proposal and almost seems willing to accept his death. He bows to his opponent and prepares for the killing blow, but Afro's body instinctively dodges Kotaro's attack and decapitates him. Helpless against his own skill, Afro breaks down and begins to laugh like a madman. Outside, Ninja and Takimoto await to ask the god samurai what he would do next, to which Afro plainly replies, "I will keep moving forward." And yeah, let me tell you, absolute goosebumps moment. What are Afro's key combat skills? In this next section, we'll be listing out all the combat skills that helped Afro attain godhood. Master Swordsman. This is, without a doubt, Afro's primary skill as a combatant. He's skilled enough to deflect projectiles like arrows and bullets while performing lethal attacks himself. He's perfected the craft to such a level that he can create and master new techniques almost subconsciously. He's committed his techniques to his muscle memory, and it's kind of impossible to get to him when his mind is actually willing to surrender. Enhanced durability. Over the course of the series, Afro has survived countless attacks and events that would have easily killed a normal human being. To be honest, saying that he's durable is kind of an understatement at this point. Enhanced strength. Afro is also strong enough to slice through multiple thugs and warriors with ease. He once pierced through his opponent's throat even with his sword sheath. On multiple occasions, he sent men twice his size flying with his attacks. Hand-to-hand combat. Though Afro's greatest strength is his swordsmanship, he can also take down multiple opponents through his hand-to-hand combat. Enhanced speed/agility. Afro's speed and agility are fast enough to slice down missiles mid-flight and shatter bullets into molten shards. What weapons does Afro use? Afro's only weapon is his long-bladed sword, which originally belonged to his father, Rokutaro. It's got a big handguard, known as a gyard, and comes with a sheath to carry it. If you look closely, there's even a small cowrie shell hanging from a string at the bottom. How powerful is Afro Samurai? Well, to say that Afro is overpowered would be putting it mildly. The guy can defeat about 20 thugs at a time and can even eliminate droids that are 20% stronger and faster than him. Even as a child, he was strong enough to kill full-grown men. Also, his speed and durability can almost seem superhuman at times. Due to this, I guess Afro does deserve the throne of God, as well as the rank of number 1, as he's definitely an S-tier swordsman. Marvelous verdict! So, Afro is definitely one interesting guy, isn't he? Though he seems to be just another dude on a quest for vengeance, it's the nuances that bring him to life. We soon see that this is a man consumed by his own goals and cannot help himself from moving forward, even when he wants to. And honestly, we think there's something deeply tragic about that. But what do you think? What aspect of Afro do you like the most? Let us know in the comments section down below. That's all for now, but don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all our most marvelous content. Until next time, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.